Morning everyone and welcome to the Fife Properties Saturday morning show. And today I have guest Jim Parker. So Jim's joining us today. How are you this morning, Jim?
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. Yep. It's going to be a glorious day. Probably burn off the cloud.
I think it'll burn off the afternoon.
It'll be nice and sunny later on this afternoon.
So how's things? Have you been busy?
Absolutely busy. Got my... I didn't even know it was my 10th or 9th or 11th property yesterday. Got the keys for it. Actually, the first time I'd seen it is actually when I got the keys and I walked in the door and I went, wow, I'm pleasantly surprised. Yeah. But this one was 15,000 below the home report value and 15,000 below what the estate agent was advertising it. So I managed to get that deal, no bother. And I think, wow, that's 25% because it was only 60 grand. Yeah, so when you think about 25% below, and then you think about what you could add the value. It's a 10 grand refurb, new kitchen, new shower room, decorating carpet, and we're going to put a new heating system, heating boiler in because it's got a back boiler. We can take that out, and it's in a great position. And I walked up the stairwell as well. It's got a spiral staircase. One of these unique properties that have got these, the spiral staircases in Bonnygate, the stone. Now I immediately thought, oh, this is going to be run down. But when I walked into it, I thought, wow, for me, that's a great feature. I tell you what, I could have done some training on it though, running up and down them. It's like, wow, it's like the 39 steps and then some. And by the time I got to the top, I was like, oh my God, I'll need to start running again.
That's brilliant. And I think, like you're saying, things like features like the spiral staircase is a lot to do with what we're going to discuss this morning, obviously. And it's about obviously things that are going to catch tenants' eye when they walk into the property without it being furnished and things, and that, like the wow factor that you got, they're going to experience the same thing as well.
Well, it's you know yourself. I mean, the amount of landlords that come to us for the first time and say, by the way, good morning, Linda, how are you? And thanks for watching so far. If you've got any questions, Linda, please feel free to ask. More than happy to answer them live. The one I would say is, we get a lot of when landlords come to us and say, we're going to furnish the whole property. And I'm like, whoa, don't. It's like, that's not what you want to do anymore. Furnishing properties was a great idea at the time because it used to give you a 10% wear and tear allowance and tax right off your top line. So you could end up saying you do furnished properties and furnish it with the minimal cost possible, with second-hand furniture. Then you could then just keep it going now and again, and you instantly get a 10% allowance right off your top line. And sadly, that's now gone. So I've just changed completely, and I no longer do furnished properties. Yeah. So this is a great subject to talk about because furnished properties also, yourself, if you furnish, it encourages a transient population. Morning, James. How are you?
Morning, James.
It encourages a transient population, so it allows people maybe to move in and then and more or less, the old days it used to be called a moonlight flit. It doesn't happen that often, but once in a blue moon we do get it, don't we?
We do get it, yeah, but it's not that a common thing.
But sometimes we actually want it to happen.
Yeah,
it's like woohoo, they're away. Especially with the laws as they are now, and the fact that you can only have to serve 6 months' notice, and then you can't even do anything until March next year.
Yeah, I know.
I've been on Jenny Gilruth's case again about this, and they still won't give me clarification. It's like, and they're going, oh, but you need to speak to a lawyer. And I'm like, but wait a minute, I'm actually asking you to interpret your law and tell me what that actually means to me as a guy on the ground, a landlord, boots on the ground. And all I'm asking her is to clarify that, does that mean that we cannot do anything, even though we serve eviction, until March next year? And she still won't answer that question. Typical politician.
Yeah, dodging the actual question, I think. And it's frustrating, and there's so many people in the same mindset as you. It's like, well, we're stuck here. We need more information. We need more feedback.
The government has royally messed this up. The sell-off of the council housing back in the 1980s and the approach to it was the very fact that we'll not build any more to replace them. Yeah. Was the biggest mistake they could ever make. They're paying for it big time now, and no matter how much tinkering they do with this will never change for years to come unless they put in a proper national house building policy for social housing, for council housing that is, and for affordable housing. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. tinkering about and messing about by changing and rent caps and saying second homeowners can't buy and putting up council tax for people like that isn't going to make a blind bit of difference. It's only a sticking plaster on what is a big gaping wound. It needs to be sorted.
Oh, it definitely needs to be sorted.
And that's my political point for today.
Well, that nicely leads us into today's topic. And obviously, we're going to discuss this morning a topic which is titled Pretty Vacant. And it's how to style your buy-to-let without actually using furniture. Like you discussed here, Jim, furnishings and things aren't as important as what they used to be. I mean, in certain areas, furnished properties, I think, do serve their purpose, obviously, depending on, obviously, student lets and things. Yeah, we totally agree with that, James. But I think, obviously, empty rooms could look a bit sad. And I think there's plenty of uninviting photos out there on listings and social media of empty lets that just look so uninviting. And it is a challenge for landlords to try and letting agents as well to obviously try and rectify that and make these properties look appealing. And properties never always look their best empty. So how do you dress the property without actually putting furnishing in it? Do you have any insights on how you've done this over the years? Like, have you changed from putting furnishings in properties, Jim, to obviously using different aspects to try and make it look inviting without
that? At this point in time, well, it's you have to watch in case you didn't get to the premise of being completely clinical with the property. And then, you know, if you're completely clinical about the whole thing, then it looks uninviting. It's no good to anybody. I mean, you've not got couches. Yeah, possibly white goods is the best thing to do. But it's anybody's game. I mean, you know, maybe James can actually comment on this as well and see what he's saying. I'd be interested to hear James's thoughts on what he thinks. But for me, it's just the straightforward. It is the grey colours now, and it is the nice carpets. It is making sure everything's clean and tidy. If you could walk into a clean and tidy house and it's inviting, then, you know, a tenant will take it every time. And then if they can see it's getting refurbed, you can even rent a property halfway through the refurb. Yeah,
I think that's a good idea to definitely showcase something that's being obviously renovated or in the midst of that, because you could see the progression in that. There's James saying there's staging companies out there that give virtual dressings and Photoshop furniture in. What's your views on that, Jim, about the dressing companies and Photoshop things? I don't know if that's something that I would probably advise, but it depends on where you are, I think.
Definitely. High end, it might be the way to go. If you're talking, because I mean, it could cost a few bob. If you've got a 2-bedroom flat in Methil or Cooper, you know, the last thing you're going to be able to afford is maybe a virtual staging company to do photographs and put them all in. I mean, personally, for me, I've never had an issue with having an unfurnished property because it's always kind of done to a high standard. If you get the kitchens and bathrooms right and the decoration, a tenant will take it 99 times out of 100 every single time.
There's Wendy. Morning, Wendy. Yeah, we'll see you next week, Wendy. That's great. And Andrea's saying furniture gives room a sense of proportion, and that's very true, and it does. But I think obviously what we're trying to look at this morning is how to obviously present the property and get that wow factor and that good feeling when you walk in without using furnishings. Because obviously the 9 times out of 10 lets now are unfurnished, and I think a lot of it, I mean, buy-to-lets, there's clever styling touches. You could improve the invisibility and increase the popularity and maximise its income and performance, and more than that, by reducing potential for wear and tear, and making welcoming spaces. And I think it all comes down to, like Jim says, these new neutral greys on the walls, so colour schemes, and also other points like the lighting and things as well, I think is a big thing nowadays. Linda has said about putting the blinds up as a minor touch, but dresses bare windows. That's very true, Linda.
It's actually that's one of the things I used to do all the time. I always used to put curtains up anyway because you're absolutely right. It dresses the window, but I found in this market it's actually quite buoyant, so I don't tend to need to do that. Again, we're coming back to furnishings, and I know you get an instant deduction for these costs now. You never used to before because you were getting the wear and tear allowance.
Yeah,
but that instant deduction is actually quite welcomed because it's right off the bottom line. And you don't do this allowance anymore. I think, there's easier ways to work harder to get the best tenant and work smarter to get the highest rent.
Yeah.
The good news, you know yourself, well, little time and expense, you could actually turn it around quite quick. I've got a refurb company coming in to do this refurb that I bought yesterday. It's going to cost me probably around about 9,000 all in. And that's the job done. It's a brand new flat ready to go. And I think, well, what would you get for a 1-bedroom in Cooper?
1 beds in Cooper are going for around about the 500 now. So,
wow, I was erring on the side of caution and saying,
no. And we done one of the new builds at 525, I believe.
Well, that then shows me straight away that I've erred on the side of caution. In order to make sure that I'm protected on the downside, and it's probably paid dividends because now I've got an investment which actually is going to give me a better return than I actually thought myself.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the Cooper market's the whole of Fife's been very popular over the last few months especially, but the Cooper market's always been popular just with its proximity to St Andrews and obviously the transport links with the train and just the whole feel of Cooper. It is quite a popular area for renters, but obviously the rental prices have pushed up and we're achieving record rents for property in the area just now. So.
Yeah, I'm classic example. I'll maybe see if I can share my screen here, and show you that one that we were talking about the other night. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Just I'll quickly.
Morning, Charlotte. Charlotte's just touched on colour scheme, and obviously Charlotte has obviously helped do a few refurbs recently, and our input and colour scheme things has been.
See that okay?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, so there's the one I've just bought. Obviously, I bought it for 45. I'm going to spend 9 grand to get it done. It'll probably value up at 60 grand, which is here. You see that okay? When I'm having the wee pointer.
Yeah, I can see it,
yeah, I kind of see the full screen. And then when you look at it, in its nutshell, if it was cash at 60 grand, it was at 450. By the way, I'm only putting 450 on it.
I'm going to say because you're probably.
I'm in the side of caution again. I'd actually planned at 400, but look at that. If you're leveraging your position with the bank, you've got a 9% gross yield with cash, but then it's going up to 25 if you're doing it through the bank with a mortgage. With the same money down, because it's completely irrelevant what happens with overheads, because they're always going to be the same after that anyway. So it's giving you a maximum a 10% or 11% net return, and then the return on investment over 10 years at 2% growth, and the price of the value of the property is 169%. Sorry, but then when you look at it as well, I've only put 45 in, so I would actually get the 45 back out, and then I've got the 9 grand left in. So if I can actually get that 70 grand valuation, possibly. I might get all my money back out and possibly have an infinite return and still actually make around about £1,500 a year and an 8% return on. Well, it's an infinite return, isn't it? And then a capital appreciation of about 15,000 over the next 10 years.
Yeah,
that's a good one, eh?
Yeah, and I think you could easily put 475 as a minimum on that.
Yeah.
But like I say, we're achieving higher.
Good, happy days. You've made my day.
People's morning. Andrea's always also putting in a nice property will attract tenants who are willing to pay a good rental price. That's very true. I think presentation is everything. You attract obviously a better quality tenant, and they are willing always to pay a wee bit higher if the property.
Well, nobody wants to go into a property and actually, the door handles hanging off and the kitchen doors, wonky. The toilet seat. A classic example is the toilet seat's loose. So you sit in the toilet and you slide off. It's like that just tells you straight away that there's no attention to detail here, and the property won't be looked after. And you'll probably find if there's any repairs needing done, the landlord wouldn't care less. They'll no come back to you. They'll no probably do it because they'll think it's minor and they'll push it onto you as a tenant. I think that's what gives you the game away. And the only reason I know that is because I've been in it for 30 years and I understand that happens every single time. I've seen it happen all the time. You could tell by the way a landlord looks after their property and tells you what to do and instructs you what to do and how it ends up, that how their attitude is towards investing and actually looking after their property. They're one of the biggest tax-free assets. And then also their tenant as well, which is more important because that's the person that pays the bills. That's the person. That's like you having a customer. So think about it this way: your tenant-landlord relationship is like you having a customer in the industry. If you were sitting at your work just now and a customer phoned up, how important would that person be to you? They'd be everything. And yet some landlords approach it with the attitude that it's the other way around. It's like the tenant is lucky they've got a right that the landlord is actually giving them the property to rent. It's like, what? And that's where people like me jump in and actually take their tenant off them if they're a really good tenant, and I keep fully occupied as a result of that. People want to stay with us and then they recommend us because of what we're doing and how we're doing it. So that's all you need to do. You just need to make sure that you're better than what the other landlords are providing in order to attract the right tenant and the best quality tenant to get the right return and the right rent and the highest yield and also the least void.
Yeah, definitely. I think as long as if you're a landlord investor and things, keep ahead of the game and try and always stay head and shoulders above the competition and look at what other people are putting out and think, is this something that I would live in or I would rent? And if not, do something at that higher level. I think you touched earlier, Jim, when we spoke about lighting and obviously its impact on how it makes you feel when you enter a property. I think
I'm a big thing for lighting.
Sorry?
I'm a big person for lighting. Lighting is everything.
Yeah, and I think obviously light bulb moments is the next topic, and I think it could leave everyone without leaving everyone looking positively. Cold lighting makes rooms look room luxurious as a hospital corridor. And I think that's in the vlog there, and I think that's exactly if you're walking in with an ill-lighted room. I think these energy-saving bulbs and some of these spiral energy-saving bulbs give out. They emit not a good lighting that makes.
I would use the word depressing.
Yeah, it is. But it's incredibly cheap to put the proper lighting in. I think that the energy-saving bulbs and spiral bulbs are the prime culprits, and they give off like a blue tinged fluorescent glare. But newer LEDs and things can be purchased in all your local hardware stores, IKEA and things as well, and they do give off the right kind of ambient light that makes you feel a lot more welcoming when you walk into a property. And I think the lighting is very important.
Well, they're designed to combat SAD syndrome. I mean, we've got, as soon as I saw they were available, they're called daylight lights. So they're daylight bulbs, and you don't actually see any colour in them at all, but it makes the room look brighter, but you don't actually realise the lights are on because it is mimicking natural light. So you don't actually realise the lights are on. Now, when I knew daylight bulbs were out, I've got 40 downlighters in the house, and I've changed every single one of them straight away. Never mind the fact that I made an absolute killing in the savings of electricity costs.
We have them in the offices.
I went from 40, 50 watt downlighters, right, to 40 4-watt downlighters that emitted daylight light. So it was equivalent to running 2 60-watt bulbs permanently all the time. How happy was I?
Yeah, we have them in offices as well, and I think they give you they set the atmosphere and kind of set the mood for working spaces just as well as living spaces as well.
Lets you see natural colours in the right environment as well. So if you're if you see a colour in B&Q, for example, or Homebase, you actually see it because they've got the white light as well. So you see it in its natural environment, and then when you take it home and put it on the wall, you go, wait a minute, that's not the same colour. And that's only because your lighting and the light coming in through the window changes it, because it changes the lens in your eye and the way it does it and the focal point. So my advice is get natural white lights. And you know yourself as well, the worst thing ever is to leave a bulb which is faulty in one of your lights.
Missing bulbs as well is a bad one.
It's the downlighter. It's the downlighter. It's got 5 bulbs in it, and one of them's gone.
Yeah.
and you didn't change it. And again, I didn't kind of it's the OCD thing, but for me, it almost says to me that I don't care about this property. And I know that sounds daft just because of one wee bulb, but it's that I go back to the mechanics days where you used to buy a car privately, and what they said was for every one repair that you're needing done on a car, you'll not find two that are needing done later on.
Yeah.
So beware. And that's what it springs to mind for me. For every one thing that is wrong with the property, you'll probably have another two things that you can't see just now, and you'll only find out once you move in.
And they're such minor, easily rectified things that cause glaring problems to people when they're viewing. Like a missing bulb is so easy to replace. So
yeah,
they are things that you need to be aware of. And I think speaking of bulbs, I mean, you can go a wee bit step further, and you get these vintage bulbs and things nowadays that you could add in bedrooms and things, and they just give that maybe boutique kind of feeling, and without having all the furnishings in place. And I think that's the whole point as well. And they do give off a different
the vintage bulbs are quite good. I mean, they're soft natural light, and that's quite good as well, because it depends how ambient you want it to be. I mean, James says that they're now Edison bulbs.
Yeah.
Adaptly named Edison bulbs.
Yeah.
So I think that they're actually quite good, because it does give that soft and cozy and flattering glow to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got it written there.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on in the mood for easy luxury upgrades then?
I think things like light switches and things as well. You've obviously got these the simple white plastic coverings, and I think you get all these brushed steel and stainless steel coverings, which I think just add that kind of modern touch as well. Light switches, and like I said, it's all these wee different aspects of the property which you could upgrade fairly, relatively like economically. It's not going to be like expensive to do that, but it makes
Think about it this way. Look at it this way. This is how I look at it as an accountant. My head goes on with my numbers, and I think to myself, okay, I'm at 400 rent just now. I could spend, if I spend another £1,000, I know it's going to not be £1,000 to do it, but maybe £500. I could probably end up getting another £30 a month. Now, £30 a month is £360 a year. £360 a year divided by the 360 I probably outlaid on doing all that to get that extra money. That's a 100% return in a year. That's a payback of a year, and then you're going to get that all the time after that. So the marginal increase and the marginal improvements are exponentially more, as opposed to the original return on investment you would get just by actually these small minor upgrades and lighting and fittings and stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely, and that's a good way to look at it, Jim. I think all these small touches are going to have a financial benefit in the long run. Plus, they're going to make people feel that they are taking on a property that they're going to be able to make a home. They feel a lot obviously more inviting when they're viewing. There's so many different aspects to the impact that they have on viewers. And like you say, it attracts a better classy person and somebody that's going to look after the property, especially if you're demonstrating to them that it's important to you how the property is presented. And we do that quite a lot, and I know you do with your own ones, Jim, when you're doing refurbs. And it is all about, like Charlotte says, obviously, the property colour scheme and using all these modern and neutral greys. And Charlotte's also put a good point in there about, she commented in about the property, the smell of the property as well can make a huge difference. And we started to put air fresheners and things in place. And like you say, a couple of £1, a few air fresheners. And that's
where furnishings is actually not the greatest thing to use, because furniture can actually emit a smell and put people off.
They hold smells and things as well. Yeah.
And then it's a personal preference and a personal taste as well to the furniture that you put in a property. So you can't appease everybody. So you go for neutral, and then somebody immediately goes, well, I tell you what, can I put my own furniture in? And you're like, oh my, no. Well, wait a minute. Where am I going to keep this furniture now? So you're left with having to have a store. I mean, I had the back of Caledonian House as a complete storage area. It was held high at one point, to the ceiling. And I'm no kidding. It was about 4 levels high in terms of that. This thing, if it fell on you, would have killed you. that's how daft it was. And then I thought to myself, what am I doing? I'm spending almost, well, the rental level I get on Caledonian House now is £400 a month. So I'm losing £400 a month just to store furniture I never needed.
Yeah, I remember it being very full at one time.
Aye. You take your life in your hands when you went in the door. James actually says quite a good point here. I actually like this. This is a small adjustment. The USB sockets send a big message and a feature in a property. They need to find lost service charges. But more importantly, it actually just gives you that impression that it's more modern. And yet it's only changing a socket. It was there already.
Yeah, funnily enough, I've got a couple of landlords that we do property for, and they've just renovated 2 new ones in Cooper. So looking for them coming up in the next week or 2. And one thing they've done right around the kitchen breakfast bar and in the bedrooms and things is added the USB and the sockets, and it's a really nice touch. And they've got all the brushed steel sockets and light facings and things, and it just looks really, really good. Yeah, and that's what it is, all about the finer details, making that extra finish. And I think as well as sockets and light switches and things, door handles as well. Depending on the type of property, I mean, obviously you've got character properties and more modern apartments that are newly renovated and things like I just spoke about. But you get so many different types of handles and things that, and not just in sight, but to touch as well. Do you know what I mean? That'll like create that whole experience as you go through the property.
That was a good lead into the next subject about handles. Well done. I'm impressed.
It did lead me on quite well.
Natural flow there, superb.
So I do think that door handles is another one, definitely. And I think if you've got an older property and maybe it's Edwardian or whatever kind of period, then do the door handles in keeping with the property. And if it's a modern apartment, do the brushed steel, do these chrome handles. And handles, you could update these handles, and again, relatively inexpensively. They don't have to be very like overpriced fittings for it to look and feel to the touch really quite good. So yeah, and obviously I know you would agree with that, Jim, anyway.
Yeah, there's a few questions come up. Rather than answer them now, we'll answer them at the end. So we'll, because they're relevant to overall, rather than just the topic we're talking about now. So we will answer them at the end. Andrea, I think you'd asked a really good question. So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the first impression as you walk in the door, even if you touch the door handle and the door handle's loose, it's like no great. And the handles on the wardrobes, the handles on the kitchen drawers. Actually, what we're going for this time is we're going for the built-in handle, the bit across the top. There's not an actual handle, it's the groove. Yeah. So, and I was asking Gary, because Gary Wallace is doing the refurb. I was asking Gary, so what happens? Because I was always on previous kitchens, I've always seen that bit wear all the time, and it looks. It doesn't look great after a while. And I says, what do you think? Will that not wear after maybe 2 or 3 years? And he went, no, it's all the quality of finish nowadays is actually built and designed so it doesn't wear. So the handleless kitchen doors and drawers and that, I'm going to try it and see how I get on.
Definitely think it's worthwhile. And I think without having the handle in place, again, it gives that sleek kind of modern, flat, obviously finish. So you didn't have handles and things in the way, and it really finishes off the entire kitchen as well. I mean, kitchen units is a good one, obviously, to talk about as well, because like you say, loose drawers, handles, and cupboard doors in kitchens just doesn't send a good sign when somebody.
I mean, even taking your existing kitchen, and if the units are fine, actually just changing the handles to a different design, and possibly even changing the worktop can make a fundamental difference in a rejuvenation to a kitchen for literally just a few £100s.
Yeah, because I think as well, I mean, over the years, kitchens do take a lot of wear and tear, but it's generally the cupboards and drawer fronts and the worktop. So the actual carcasses themselves are still solid. So rather than going to all the expensive ripping the whole thing out, change the fronts, change the worktop, and it could make such a big impact, and it looks so much better than, and it's a lot more cost effective than ripping the whole thing out and starting again. Definitely. I think as well, kitchen cupboards do give an instant lift, and you'll find there's a whole array of fronts and handles, and like you say, obviously if you're really going for the more modern look, these new groove tops, Jim, groove on the top of the cupboards and drawer doors is really good. And another thing is coat hooks and and not just in hallways and things, I think as well. And it's funny because recently, obviously, we're trying to find a holiday home here in Scotland. Obviously, go somewhere just for a break, and you trawl through quite a lot, and it's very difficult because obviously the market now is just crazy because everybody's holidaying at home, and a lot of the reviews, and it's funny enough because when a lot of the reviews were there was nowhere for me to hang my towels in the bathroom, and there was nowhere for me to hang my coat in the hall. There wasn't. And to put up a coat rack in the hallway and some hooks in the bathrooms and things, it's all these finer touches that people will notice and think, well, that's handy, and it clearly is something that people look at. I mean, I know it's holiday lets, but it's the same type of thing. Obviously, you need these functions on a daily basis. So that's something as well that you could put in. And I think to walk in and see that there's maybe a row of coat hooks in the hall and things, and then into the bathroom, well, they're there as well. People will pick up on this. I think, and in the blog about this, it says about the old, do you know the old plastics, oval, the white stick-on ones that everybody used to use at one point?
Yeah.
But
ones that we've still got in our office.
Probably, yeah, we do. But I mean, not them. I'm talking about the chrome coat hooks and things as well that are going to be durable and stay there for a long time, as opposed to these just stick-on things that you're left with just the the stick-on that was stuck to the wall and no coat hook, and it looks unsightly as well.
You're also sending the message to the person that's actually living in the property that it's okay just to mistreat the property by because you've not actually put things like that up. And then you know, I've seen a landlord come in before and go, you've put coat hooks up and you've put this up and put that up, and it's like, I'm wanting that off my deposit, and it's like, well, wait a minute, they've put it up because you failed to put it up.
Because you never
didn't do anything about it. I mean, where do you think they're going to put their coats? Just throw them on the ground, and then then the next minute you'll be complaining that they're throwing them on the ground.
Yeah.
So you need to give your incoming tenant, you know, somewhere to hang stuff up. You're absolutely right, but make it stylish, make it nice, put it in practical places where you would have it yourself. It's literally common sense, but it's not that common, is it?
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's the classic example is like, where would I like the hooks in my house? I mean, I've got hooks in the back of my doors and at the front as well, and I've got a shoe rack and everything to keep everything off the floor. So it's all these different things in order just to help and make it more appealing for such a little cost when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing, I mean, for my years of doing viewings and things, tenants always look for storage options. They're always looking at storage, not just cupboards, things like obviously places to hang things, where could I put the Hoover, and do you know what I mean? So you need to think of all these things as well. And I think like bathroom storage, I think, which will come to in a wee while, it's all important factors, I think, definitely.
You've seen these wee places that you've got the stairway and you've got drawers in the stairs.
I've seen them, yeah.
It's like, that's a great idea, but I don't know how practical that is and how much that would cost. I could imagine that would cost a fortune to get that, because I know how our stairs is constructed and it's pretty straightforward. But then if you start putting drawers in, you know, will that affect the integrity of the construction in the first place, which would have to be strengthened, which would cost more money. So you'd maybe be better actually just buying a freestanding unit somewhere or having a cupboard instead.
I mean, it's an ingenious idea, but I do think it probably end up being costly. But I think a probably cheaper alternative, and it's something that would maybe look a wee bit more stylish, is rather than have the cupboard under the stairs, unless you need it as a cupboard, is to take that out and shelf it, and then you have it in its storage, and it's a wee bit of feature as well at the same time. I think that's probably a more cost-effective way.
That's a good idea. I mean, we do have in this flat yesterday, I discussed, it's got a stack pipe underneath going from the WC in the shower room. So it's basically got the shower, and then it's got a bit next to it, just an open bit, and then it's up a bit level to get the stack pipe to go along. And I said, well, what do we do about that? Because you can't put the shower right across, because then you'd have to put the shower about 6 inches to a foot up above the ground. That wouldn't be practical for somebody getting in and out, especially a child. Although it's a 1-bedroom, so a child wouldn't be there, I suppose.
Yeah, but
unless we're renting to a lot younger people. And I says, well, why do we know exactly what you said? Why do we not just put shelves in there and actually make it nice and easy for somebody to store all their stuff, rather than have it all sitting congregated around the worst thing ever? See, when I go into my shower, there's about 50 different products lying on the right around all the way. I only need one and it's no shampoo, by the way. I only need one product, and it's like, why do we need 15 other things to clean ourselves? We only need one, for goodness sake, and that's it. But my wife insists. She needs all these things. You want me looking beautiful, don't you? Well, I can't disagree with that. So I just have to grin and bear it. But the fall about your feet, and you're like, whoa, slip them about in the shower and stuff. And it's like, can we not just get a rack and put up? No, we're not getting a rack. They're filthy. It's like, no. But practicality, now you're getting into my psyche of how I think. But everybody, I mean, there'll be people out there that relate with that completely. It's like,
just going to say, there'll be so many people that can relate.
Round about your feet, and you're like, for God's sake.
I think an abundance of products in a bathroom is probably a problem that a lot of people do experience.
So that brings me back to saying the nice shelves at the side. Yeah. You know, we're going to get about 5 or 6 decent shelves out there. There's good depth to it as well. Mm-hmm. It's going to be great for keeping towels. It's going to be great for keeping hair products, you know, everything else, shaving products and all that. Because the sink is literally just a hand, you know, an easy hand away from it. Yeah. And that's exactly about, you know, this is about furnishings and not furnishings. How do you style an empty property? Well, that's classic examples about how you make it so simple for such a simple modification to be so great for someone.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely agree. I think as well, storage options and things, but bringing us back to a comment, Linda made a comment about obviously blinds in the property. You're laughing at James's comment.
Come on, let's discuss this now, because I need to get it off my chest. I need a separate shower room. Hey, listen, I've got 3 bathrooms. And I still can't get the use of my own one. And yeah, absolutely. I've got a Jack and Jill as well. And that's the one I'm talking about. Everything just falls about all over the place. And I've got one product for shaving, and we've got cupboards full of stuff. And I only use one shaving and an under deodorant arm roller. That's it. I've got 2 products and a shaver, and yet we've got cupboards and cupboards full of stuff. That's my rant over.
Right, okay. I knew that's what you were laughing at, so that's why I paused. But yeah, coming back to Linda's comment about blinds, and I think obviously treating and dressing windows is important, and I think there is a flip side to providing like maybe blinds and things and window coverings. There is obviously the responsibility of making sure that they're kept functional and fit for purpose. But then I think as well, they do give such a nice feel. They let the light filters through quite well, and also they do stop, because if you're not going to provide blinds or window coverings or whatever, then each tenant's going to come in and want to put their own up, and not always it's not always going to be done properly. So it opens up that aspect for causing damage with putting up curtain poles and blinds.
Think vertical blinds are quite nice.
I think, I've just done my...
I think the vertical, I don't think the Venetian are great, because they're old, they're antiquated, they're from 1970s. I mean, you might get great ones, but to me, it's no great. Vertical blinds are nice, I would say. And it's like what you say, if you don't want something to be seen outside when you're doing a viewing, then you kind of just close them off a bit so it can't be seen. But it also provides a bit of privacy for the person, you know, when they're in the property. But it depends what your outlook's like. I mean, if you've got a stunning country scenery out the window, then the last thing you're going to do is close the blinds up when you're taking them round.
Yeah, but I think the good thing with blinds is you could kind of half shut them, and they do give you the privacy where people kind of see in, but you still see out and you still get the light. So yeah,
I'd be interested to hear anybody's comments on that. What do you like? Vertical blinds, Venetian blinds, or curtains? It's entirely up to you. Or nothing at all. You know, what's your thoughts on it?
That would be interesting to hear. I mean, I have just done my whole house with Venetian blinds. But it's the modern ones with the tapes and things, didn't it?
I'll take that back then. Just forget that. Strike that from the record, Your Honour.
No, but I mean, there is modern versions of them as well. But I remember the Venetian blinds in my mother's house, and to think of them now, but obviously that was the 90s. Do you know what I mean? So there is modern. No, there is. Well, the 90s was where I grew up, but there is modern versions of Venetian blinds which look quite stylish. So and again,
what's your thoughts on wooden blinds?
I think you get the wood effect now, but they're not actually wooden. which has got they're a lot more durable and last a lot longer. I think and you could get them relatively. I mean, they're kind of medium priced. They're not like too expensive, but then I mean, I wouldn't say that they're cheap, but you do get kind of mid-range things that are really probably the best thing to go for.
Blackout blinds.
Yes, definitely have to be as well. I think especially for bedrooms and things. A lot of people now have the blinds, but and there isn't any need for curtains. It's just the blinds, which again is kind of like the modern kind of touch.
Yeah, and plus the fact if you're putting stuff up, you know, the bonus as well when you think about it, Richard, if you're putting stuff up, it's maybe a smart purchase because you're actually drilling all the holes beforehand.
That's what I was saying. It eliminates the risk for damage, and I've seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it over the years, Jim, as people putting curtain poles and blinds up and leaving big holes in either side of the window at the top, and do you know what I mean? It could look unsightly when they leave, and it's a pain. You have to get them filled, and then you have to redecorate and things as well. So a lot of comments coming in here about blinds.
Comments start from Andrea's. Okay, we'll put Andrea's up. I love the plantation shutters, and are you from America or something?
They are nice. They are nice. I think you have to have them in the proper home, but they are nice. I do like them. I have to agree.
I have no idea what plantation. Oh, plantation shutters. Yeah, they're like they're a cross between vertical blinds and the old traditional shutters that you have. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And they're quite popular nowadays as well, but they are expensive. They're expensive.
Alicia actually says the old whitish plastic Venetian blinds are horrible. I would agree. Wooden blinds give a colonial feel. Yep, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Heather, Venetian blinds are probably the most modern. However, paint to clean, absolutely right. Verticals are so easy. Keep lots of stylish fabrics too now. Yeah, I would agree because you've still got the mechanism up the top and you just take them off and put new ones on if you want to.
Yeah, and you could even change colours and things as well with the
and James is coming in with vertical blinds unless the interior supports rustic horizontal blinds except... Foxwood. Is it Foxwood? I have no idea what that is.
It's just imitation. It's imitation wood, basically. It's got the wood grain effect on it, but they're not actually wood. And like I say, they're a lot more durable as well.
All right, okay. So we've got that. So you know what happens? What happens inside? I mean, if you don't put blinds up, you've got a huge amount of sunlight coming in. So how do you capitalize on that? Do you find reflective surfaces? You know, is that what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think obviously again it comes back to color schemes and if you've got, depending on where the light's coming into the room, where you could obviously put maybe, I don't know, mirrored surfaces and things as well. Mirrors are a really good one for opening up a space. I think for bouncing light through. I mean, if you've got a really light room, but maybe goes into a narrower, maybe a pretty darker hall, putting strategically kind of placing mirrors and things as well opens up a space. I've seen that happen, and I've seen it happen in stairways as well. Sometimes if you come down a stairway, it could be quite dark, and as at the wall that faces you, I've seen people. And I'm only saying this, I've done it in my own home, but they've got mirrors right up the full length.
Do I hear what you're so vain?
No,
about you.
And it opens up the space.
Excuse my singing, by the way, if it's put anybody off.
I mean, I do use it to do the final check before I leave the house, but it does open up the...
How did I know you were going to say that? It's the final check. It's like, is my hair okay? It's like, I don't do this anymore, but could you imagine me just checking my hair before literally my hair, the one hair before I go out the door?
Well, I hope at your age I'm still able to check my hair, but that's yet to be determined. But no, it's definitely the prime. the purpose is to obviously open up the space and let all the light in. And I think these are things definitely to think about, because there's nothing worse than having some space that feels dark and enclosed when you've got the light there. Utilize it.
Well, we had it the other day when we were taking a photograph. We actually looked at the photographs, and because of there was two big, massive bunk beds in there, and it's Hillhead. It's two big, and they're overpowering the whole room. And you can't even get a picture from the door without the bunk beds going, "Hello, we're bunk beds," and that's towards the window. And you know how I like a shot always towards the window to bring the natural light in. But luckily enough, we had another shot which had a mirror. So we were able to go, I tell you what, we don't actually need the window because the mirror actually looks like the window. Yeah, and it works perfectly. So the bunk beds look a lot smaller, and you see more of the activity space, and you see that mirror giving that reflection back, which actually gives you the impression that there's a as I said, there's a window there, and it works perfectly. So the flow of having mirrors reflecting back light is absolutely, it's a great idea.
Yes,
but you have to be careful though, because remember, you've got a tenant, you've got a health and safety, you've got a duty of care.
Yeah, I know you need to take things like that into consideration. But there's also thing. I mean, I think the fittings and things as well in properties like chrome taps and things as well. Everything that light bounces off of, it's making sure that these are clean. I mean, sometimes it's just, giving the property a good clean to make sure the surfaces and taps and things are shining in the light and look clean. I think obviously kitchens and bathroom areas, I think it's so important that these are presented in a clean presentation. And again, it could just be a really good scrub and they come up really well. I think to go in and see wash hand basins and bathtubs and things that are grimy and didn't have that sheen to it and that shine, could be an off-putting thing as well.
We'll take some comments.
Yeah.
So, Alicia, blackout curtains, that is it. Yeah, I've got them. It's like, because I tell you what, as soon as the light comes through the window, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's right, time to get up. Yeah. So that's the difference for me. Light and space of illusion is what I pay extra rent for. There you go. The clue is there straight away. James actually says a pre-refit at the Glenrothes property is the house of mirrors. Horrendous. You can just imagine the old mirrors. Mind the tiles it used to get on the, on somebody's ceiling or on somebody's wall, all the square tiles all the way around. It's like, whoa. It's like one of these House of Fun things in the arcades. And Heather, fantastic cheap mirror hack, IKEA mirrors and black photo frames. That's a good idea. Pop them up and create a big wall as you wish. Really effective and cheap to do. Cheap. Yeah, absolutely.
There is a lot of cost-effective ideas out there that just create that wow factor and capitalise on the light.
That's exactly how it was. You should have taken photographs of that. Have you got photographs of that, James?
I think he does have photographs of that.
Please post them in the comments on here. We'd love to see them.
That would be good, James. No, I'm sure he does have photos of it. But yeah, a lot of different ideas. But sometimes, it might even just come down to giving the place a good clean so that it actually shines and stands out in the light. James is saying the photos are on his LinkedIn, so we might have a look at them later. Definitely making use of the light in a property. And then I think also it brings us back to the topic of obviously scuffs and paintwork and dreary colours and things in a property. They can be one of the biggest off-putting things when you're trying to do viewings. And sometimes it just comes down to a fresh lick of paint and whether you're using just maybe an off-white colour. Sometimes brilliant white's maybe not the best. Or like I say, these new grey shades that are kind of proving to be a lot more popular and modern and give it that modern feel, like behind me.
Well, that's it. I think one of the things for me, I probably take exception to is when you walk into a property that the landlord hands over to you, and all they've done is dab the scuffs with the same type of paint, so you can actually see the difference in the tone and the shade of the magnolia from before. There you go. Then that's me dating myself. The magnolia from before and the magnolia recently done, or the grey recently done. It's the same color, but because time's passed, one's faded a bit and one's no, and it looks horrible.
It just looks a job, doesn't it? Look good.
Aye, and it sends out the wrong message. And again, for the price, as I come back to, how much would it cost to get a room decorated or painted? So painted all over, a couple of £100.
Yeah.
An increase of £20. An increase of £20 a month in your rent. So an increase of £20 a month in the rent is £240 a year. There's a couple of £100. Just like that.
And the finish, and also when people come in and view and they smell fresh paint and see that the walls have been painted and things, it gives them it passes on that impression to them, like this is looked after, somebody's caring about this property, and that's going to set the tone for the tenancy if they decide to go ahead.
I would agree completely. I would almost go to the point that can you buy these smells? And just emit them at the front door, behind the door as soon as they walk in, as the supermarkets do at the baking aisles. Because the first thing, you know yourself, the first thing Greg's and that do, they immediately go, get the ovens on as quick as possible and get everything in cooking so the smell, open the door. That's why they leave the door open, so the smell wafts out. It's no anything to do. Because I always used to think, you've got the heater on, it's the middle of winter, and the heater's blasting down as you walk in the door, but you've got the door open. What a waste of money that is! But the whole point was to actually waft the smell of all the bread and the pies and the sausage rolls and everything else out the door, so everybody go, oh wow! And it's just like, and it's almost like when you're walking past it, Greg's is shouting to you, going, "Come in, Jim! Come in! I'm here!" Or at least that's what I hear. Again, you're getting a wee insight into the way I think.
No. I know the feeling. I've put on a wee bit of weight because of that recently. But yeah, I think it smells like fresh paint and a nice air freshener and things like that are all just, again, all these small touches that do make all the difference.
What's your thoughts on the just 3 walls plain and 1 feature wall?
That's a more and more common thing, and it kind of gives that boutique kind of feel, especially in bedrooms. Obviously, the main wall where the bed would sit, maybe doing even just a different shade, the colour. I think it's quite risky to do. You could do pattern wallpapers and things, but they're not going to always be to somebody's taste. Whereas you just do a change in shade of the colour. If you've got warm whites, then do maybe just an off grey, or if you've got grey and do maybe a darker grey. Do you know what I mean? To create that feeling, and it gives the room purpose. And when you walk into it, think, all right, well, the bed would go there, or all right, this is the fireplace wall when you go into the living room because it's a darker shade or a different shade. These are all things that I've seen done more and more, obviously, over the last few years as it becomes more like kind of a trend.
Because you're quite good at that. You've got quite a good eye for design and layout. Whereas I'm just quite clinical. I mean, that's the 30 years of just doing this all the time and thinking it's just rinse and repeat. And you get into that mode of that's exactly what I do, just keep duplicating all the time. Whereas people are looking for these just subtle differences. And that does actually get you that wee bit extra rent and does actually get you that lesser void. So it's minimizing voids, it's increasing rent, and you've got effectively, to coin a phrase, the double whammy. It's like you're getting that, you're getting both sides of that coin. You're getting the increase in rent, and you're getting the decrease in the void, which is a great position to be in.
I mean, obviously, what you've done for years, obviously, was right at the time. Then the magnolia walls, the beige carpets, and things, and obviously your recent refurbs, you're like, right, okay, we'll do the grey scheme, and we'll do grey carpets, and we'll do like the. And look at the results. I mean, they're amazing, the refurbs that your new ones are.
Well, Stephen Clark will be pleased to know I'm a convert to grey. Because we're always ribbing each other. He's always got a flipping heck, you with magnolia and white skirtings and facings and everything. Because you've got to get up with the times and get to the grey, and the subtle hints of taste and everything. And I'm like, no, it's just like magnolia. And so I have changed. I've let the guys loose, and I've actually taken a more back seat when it comes to the refurbs. I do still stick to the model of the gloss white kitchens. I know a lot.
They're still very much in. So
but it's because they're kind of be timeless. Whereas what I'm concerned about is putting a grey kitchen in, and grey could go away in 5 years' time. And I know. Now I'll tell you the joke. The standard joke behind this. Andrea says, "Be more grey," and we had a discussion about being about making decisions, and it was and we're quite logical, the both of us, and it's either black or white. And I had the discussion. We're saying we need to be more grey in our approach to things. We need to see in between somewhere and have that sort of way forward, and rather than just being black or white. So that's why she's made the comment about be more grey.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think as well, like you say, I think as well the grey carpets. I think they're a lot more durable. They hide, not hide a lot more, but they still look in such good condition even after a tenancy that's maybe been a couple of years. Whereas the older beige carpets and things, they did, even though you get these durable ones that obviously are meant to last and take a lot of impact. But you would see at the end, even short tenancies, that they would need a really good clean or potentially even replaced. And it's like, God, it's hardly been any time at all. So I think.
I mean, I used to swear by beige for some reason. And it's like I wouldn't have put anything different in. It would have to be some sort of, it would have to be sort of a shade of brown in order to do that. And it worked very well. Maybe it was because of the magnolia and it sort of matched the
yeah.
But now it's like, you know, it's like it has to be the kind of darker colour carpet and the grey sort of look and these tones. So I'm a complete convert. I completely get it. Why you would want to do that, because it is in keeping with the current style and current trends, and it is still quite neutral and appealing to people that come in.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a comment there. Alicia said about obviously talking about green and navy as the colours for kitchens now, and I think that very much so for. Obviously, I think it is very stylish, but then it's not always necessarily going to be timeless in terms of the colours.
Yeah, but she does say the white and the black worktops is timeless, and that's exactly what I use. Ebony worktops and white gloss kitchens.
Whereas white and black, you know,
I have been using the butcher's block worktop. I think they call it bullnose or something like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But that sort of wood effect stripe worktop, I actually think that works quite well with the white. And that was the Smugglers. So Alan Thrupp did the refurbs on the Smugglers. And also the Wade School and the old Wade School at the South Wade, and he used that, and when I saw that change in the worktops, I thought, oh, that's actually quite good. So I did adapt to that change as well, and thought that was actually quite a good one to have. So I put that in a couple of my recent ones.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things you could do that are very relevant just now, but will still remain timeless for a long. Do you know what I mean? So you're not going to have to in a couple of years think, oh, this is out of fashion now, I'm going to rip it out and start again. So always kind of be savvy and think in that kind of mind frame.
The good thing about hitting the right tones with the kitchens is if you do white kitchen, gloss white kitchen, then it leaves you to a blank canvas to do the colours of the walls in a completely different way. So you can, and it will still match with the kitchen. Whereas if you have a kitchen which is defined like a blue kitchen or a grey kitchen, well, grey might actually still work, but a blue kitchen. Or a green kitchen, which is some people's using, then you're kind of left, you're left a wee bit in limbo about the colour of the walls. You've got a limited choice, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But stainless steel white goods, oven hob extractor, is actually, for me, is a must now. They used to have the white, but I think stainless steel looks far better. And a top tip for anybody that's got stainless steel and you have the staining, because you do get that, is just a wee bit of a kitchen roll and a wee bit of baby oil. Baby oil, just rub it on it. It's a cleaner's tip, and it brings it all back to what it was before. So just a light layer on it before you actually go in. And plus the fact when people walk into a kitchen and smell that baby oil, it's nice, eh? I mean, it's a nice smell. It's like so it gives off that aroma, which actually makes people feel relaxed. Yeah. Because that's exactly what it gives. Because that's babies relaxed.
I think it's all about setting the tone and the feel of someplace and a space. Definitely, when you enter a space, you instantly feel different depending on how it's set out, and it's all things like lighting and smells and things as well.
Great stuff. So final words. That's us at an hour. God, I could grab it on for something for Scotland. I wonder if there was an Olympic event in this. I could possibly win this. I could get gold medal in the Olympics, Tokyo Olympics. Jim Parker gold medal for not stop talking.
You'd probably be quite good at it, yeah. But I think my final.
Agree.
You like to talk, but no, I do think that the final thoughts for this today, I think, is to keep in the mindset that all the wee minor changes you could do, lighting, fixtures, fittings, your light switches, bulbs, the colours on the walls, and thinking about things like maybe even air fresheners and things like just all these wee touches that will make all the difference and will secure you a better tenant.
I mean, it doesn't take much to transform an empty home into a stylish one, really, an inviting future place for somebody to live in. And you've said it yourself. I mean, you've put the link onto this post to the full article we've discussed today. So if anybody wants to read that further, feel free to go ahead and just click on that link and read it. We will put the show on just in a wee minute, and then we'll put the podcast on for tomorrow at 10:30. That'll be on it in the podcast for tomorrow at 10:30 if you want to re-listen to the show. But I'd still like to hear everybody's comments once, even the people that are watching this again or listening to it again, about what their thoughts are or what makes the ideal place for them, because it's always good to get that feedback.
That is good, yeah, definitely.
And on that note, it's up to you to wrap up, Richard.
Yeah,
Over to you.
so I was just waiting on you finishing there. So now that was a good topic this morning. Like you say, we could talk on and on, but if everybody wants to jump on with any further comments, we'll reply after the show and things anyway as well. So we'll leave it there today. But that was a good show, good topic.
Great stuff. Thanks everybody for commenting.
Thanks everybody.
I'll go back on Andrea's comment about the tenant giving notice to quit and all the rest of it, and comment on that personally.
Yeah. Well, anything we missed, we'll answer.
Yeah. Okay. Bye bye, guys.
Right. Cheers. Bye.